Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is Ellie Knott and Betty Arteaga-Muriel, and we are here on another episode of Ellie and Betty. And here we talk about the parenting struggles, right? And we have gone from everything from why you need a parenting coach to why you should play with your kids. But we have never actually gotten into what got us into this work. So Ellie and me thought it would be a fun idea to get together and really get deep into what is it that brought us into this work and what is it that keeps us right waking every day and thinking this is what I want to do, this is my passion for life. So, Ellie, I know that we were talking between us and we've come to this work from very different angles. So, it's going to be very interesting to see during our conversation how different path can still bring you right to the same destination. And I want us, for you to share with us a little bit more what brought you into this work.
Yeah, so I've mentioned many times before that I have a background as a preschool teacher, but I want to get a little bit more into how that actually led me here. Because a lot of parent coaches, they become parent coaches because they are parents themselves, and maybe they sought out a parent coach, or they did this training because they were trying to figure out what to do with their kids. And my story is very different. And it actually goes way back. As I was really contemplating on this and thinking a little bit deeper, I was able to trace this story back even further than I thought. And it's almost like the pieces have been falling into place for years and years and years. But I didn't know it until now. So it's kind of funny how it works. But right off the bat, from my first year of teaching preschool, I'm a year out of college. I got my first job. I was teaching 2-year-olds at a local, small private preschool. And parents had so many questions. They had questions about their children, about how to raise them, how they should be talking to them or how they should be, trying to get them to follow directions. They had questions about, is this behavior developmentally appropriate, or is this something I should be asking the pediatrician about? Like, do they need help? And they were asking me those questions. And as a, 22-year-old, however old I was, I was kind of like, why are you asking me this? Right. And obviously I think they saw me as, as the professional, as the teacher, even though I didn't quite see myself as that just yet, because I didn't have that experience. I was in my first year. I was just trying to figure things out and understand how, everything that I learned in college, like, how do I apply this into the real world now, into my world of teaching? So obviously, I gained more and more experience. I spent 6 years teaching preschool, and the remainder of those years I spent teaching 3-year-olds. But I still saw those same needs from parents, getting a lot of those same questions. And so something that I started to do was proactively giving a lot of that information. I would send weekly newsletters. I would send daily communications. And especially in those weekly newsletters, I would give a lot of information about child development and how that related to what we were doing, so that parents could start seeing those dots connecting between, okay, these are the milestones that my child should be working towards in, like, the language domain, in the physical domain, in the cognitive, in, math skills, and then connecting that to the activities that I was doing with them. So kind of bridging that, like, sciencey, theoretical development stuff to real world application. And I think a lot of the parents really appreciated that. And they were able to see that their kid wasn't just going to preschool and playing all day, because that's the misconception that a lot of people think is like, oh, preschool, you just sit and you just play with them all day, right? It's so easy, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes. And so kind of revealing that, like, pulling away the curtain and letting parents see that, I think was very eye-opening for them. And it also gave me a new appreciation for my job. So when I was able to share that information with parents, that was really fun for me. It was really gratifying. And then I started to be able to make more deep connections with parents. So, couldn't do this with every single parent in every class. It would be absolutely impossible. But I was lucky that every year I maybe had 1, 2, 3 families that I got to connect really, really deeply with. And these would become families that they clearly wanted a lot of communication from me, right? And so I would give that to them. The more they wanted, I would give them as much as I could. And that led to forming deep relationships, right? Like close relationships. And we were communicating just about every day on what their child was up to, right? Good, bad, just completely normal and boring, whatever it was being communicated back and forth. And the same way that I would tell the parent, like, hey, maybe they had a hard time following directions today, or they were really into puzzles and they like solved this puzzle with so many pieces that they had never done before. And they were so proud. They would also be communicating with me. So they would be telling me in the morning, like, hey, we had a really bad night of sleep last night. And then I would know, okay, I'm not going to expect this child to be at their very best today because they're coming in with a lack of sleep, right? And so it was these little pieces of information that are going both ways so that as the parent and as the teacher, we both have more realistic expectations of what that kid is capable of that day, right? What their best looks like today, because that looks different every day.
I like that. Yes. Recognizing that their best might look different every day as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that became one of my favorite parts of being a teacher. It was something that was really rewarding for me. And as the years went on, I would see that those children who, me and the parents, we had that deep connection and we had that constant communication back and forth. Those were the kids that would actually make the most progress with me throughout the whole year. And I believe that was because parents and teachers, we were united as one team. So there was a lot more cohesiveness. There was a lot more similarities in the expectations, in even the ways that we were talking to them, in the ways that we were, reacting to certain challenges. Because parents would come to me and they would say, "Oh, I can't get them to clean up," right? And so I would tell these parents, "This is how we do it at school." Not telling them that you have to do it this way, but like, this is what we do. And it works when we get in this routine, and these are the things I say, and this is the way I say it, and this is how I frame it to them. And they would take that home. And now the kid has this expectation, or this, they just have, consistency. That's the word I'm looking for. They have more consistency where they understand, like, when I'm done playing at school, the teacher says, this thing, and I know it's time to clean up, and I do it. And now this is happening at home too. So it creates more consistency all across.
And the parents got the collaboration that they were looking for.
Exactly. Yeah. So it just made things kind of go smoother all around. And as I was doing this, I was also getting to a point in my life that I've always known I wanted to become a mom. I've always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. That was how I was raised. And so that was just something that I always thought would happen. And, when me and my husband started getting serious and, started having those conversations, like, he also agreed, like, I'd love you to be a stay-at-home mom. So that's been in the plan for a long time. But we started to get to that point in life where we're like, okay, we're planning for this, it's coming, right? It's coming a little bit sooner. It's in the works. And I knew that being a teacher and being a mom at the same time would not be a path for success for me. Teaching is very intensive physically, mentally, emotionally. And when I would come home at the end of the day after teaching, I was done. I had nothing left for my husband. I had nothing left for, to take care of my home, to take care of myself. It was taking everything I had. And so even though I loved it so much, it's something that I feel that I'm good at and I'm passionate about. I just knew it wasn't the long-term plan for me. And I needed to make a change before becoming a parent so that I could show up as the mom that I've always dreamed of being for my kids. And so, all these pieces are falling into place, and I start doing Google searches because I'm like, I need to figure out what is this next step for me. And, just typing different things in, and I'm like, I'd love to work with parents. Like, I love when I get to work with parents, and how do I do this? And I would keep getting Google searches that was like, well, be a family therapist, or, be a counselor. And I'm like, all these things, they would require me to go back to school. And like, I don't have time for that. And, to put all of that energy in when I want to be a stay-at-home mom anyways, like this, this doesn't seem quite it. And finally, one day I put in the right string of words into Google, and parent coaching came up, and the Giant Institute of Parenting popped up, which is where we were both certified. And as soon as I saw that, it just clicked. it was just one of those moments where, this is what I am meant to do. I just immediately, like, it was not something I had to think about. It just hit me as I know this is what I need to do.
Mhm. It's like
Um,
all of the searches, everything else in that moment. Like, in the movies, we get those moments, right? The little light bulb, boom,
yeah,
this is it. Yes.
yeah. It was a light bulb. It resonated. It just felt in alignment. And I sat with it. I was a little scared to tell anyone right away. But I knew. And the more that I sat with it, the more that I knew, like, yes, this is definitely what I want to do.
Yeah. And Ellie, I don't
Um,
mean to interrupt you, but I just want to highlight the fact that you can see it in your body, how excited you just got, that remembering the moment brought to you that same feeling of, yes, this is it. I could see it all over you.
Absolutely. And that's the feeling that I try to connect back to in the moments where I'm like, this is hard. This is not as easy as I hoped it would be. It's challenging me. It's encouraging me to grow in ways that I never even thought that I would, need to grow into. And so that's the feeling that I come back to. And I definitely would not be doing this if I didn't feel so strongly, because it's not easy. um, but it was, I guess, a little bit ironic that I realized in order to be the best parent that I could be, that would mean helping other parents do the same thing.
Hmm.
So there's a little irony there, but in that same token, it would give me something where I can have the flexibility to decide what hours I'm going to work, to decide how many hours I'm going to work. I know, parenting goes through seasons the same way that life does for everyone. And I know there's going to be seasons where maybe I won't be able to coach at all, or maybe I will only have time to commit to one client at a time. And there will be other seasons where I'm going to fill up my schedule because I want to work with all the parents.
Yeah.
And so having my own business, doing my own thing gives me that flexibility. And it also allows me to do something that doesn't take my energy away like teaching does, but it still allows me to use that same expertise that I've gained through my teaching career and my education degree, and now pass that on to parents. And, that's another thing that really gets me excited about this work is I still get to influence kids, even though I'm not working directly with them. I get to influence them by influencing their parents, who are the most important people in their life.
Yeah.
And so it's not just that impact for the 1 year that I'm with them in school, it's the impact for life. And that goes on through generations and generations.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love them. So it's just the feeling of the work that and the impact that you want to make, but then
Mm-hmm.
you found a way that works with your life, and also a way that is going to create ripple effects through generations, which is amazing.
Absolutely. And my own generational impact is another one of the reasons that I got into this. Because as we started getting closer again to that time of, we want to start our family, I started having a lot of anxiety come up in me because I was noticing patterns that I think we all have this moment where when you move out of your house and you're not living with your parents anymore, you start to realize, oh, not everyone does things the way that my family did. And the things that maybe you always thought were just normal, you realize, oh, that's a little weird.
Yeah.
That's not as normal as I thought it was. And, so you start to see these things, and some of those things would come back out in my marriage, right? And I would start to see these patterns, and I'd be like, oh, this is familiar, right? I saw this as a child, or, I saw my parents go through this, but I don't want to do this again. I want to do things differently, and I don't want my children to have to grow up and figure these same things out that I'm trying to figure out now. And that brought up a lot of anxiety for me because I saw, in being a preschool teacher, I think I had more of an understanding than the average young adult of how intense parenting is, how much work it is to raise a child and, to teach them and to love them, even when they're driving you bonkers.
Yeah.
And I know enough to know that I will never know, right? Until I come to that experience on my own, I won't truly know what it is. But I had that perspective of like, this is going to be really hard. And so I was getting that anxiety of like, will I be able to raise my children without bringing in those negative patterns that I don't want to repeat? And that was really stressful for me because it felt so serious. I took my job as a teacher very seriously, because I know like children, they're so precious. They're brand new on this earth. And it's like, you don't want to mess them up, right? I think we all have that feeling of like, oh no, I don't want to be the reason that they're in therapy in 20 years.
Yes.
And so that was just something on my mind. And when I decided, okay, I'm going to do this parent coaching thing. I'm going to get certified. I'm going to take this course. The first piece of the course was for us to go through the program ourselves, as parents, and for me as a teacher. And so even though I wasn't able to apply what I was learning with my own children, I was able to apply it at school with my students. And I was also able to apply it in my relationship with my husband, and honestly, in all of my relationships, but especially with my husband. And that gave me the confidence to know that I can become really intentional. I can observe what's happening, and I can actually take this space to pause. And instead of just reacting in that like gut way, that like instinct or that default pattern reaction that we talk about, I'm able to stop. I'm able to pause, collect myself, like ground myself, and then choose how I want to respond and choose the new pattern I want to build. And so being able to start doing that now before there's any kids in the picture has given me so much more confidence that while I still know it's going to be hard, I have the confidence that I will be able to do it. Mm-hmm. And that makes me so much more excited to become a parent.
Yeah. Yes, because it does cause us a lot of anxiety. And I can tell you that even though, like you said, it's not gonna cure everything, it's still gonna be hard. But I love the fact that you're going into it knowing that I know it's hard, but I know I get to choose. You mentioned I get to choose the parent that I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think before doing this, I worried that I wasn't capable of making those choices. Right? It kind of felt like a self-fulfilling prophecy or a cycle that you're just stuck in and you don't have any control over. And you're like, oh, this is happening and I see it happening, but I can't get out. Right? It's kind of like you're in this like vortex in a pool, just being sucked in. And this is giving me the power to be like, I don't have to get sucked into that vortex anymore. These moments are still going to pop up, but I know how to get myself out of them way easier. And then to choose the new pattern, choose the new habit. And that is why I'm here. That's why I'm doing this. And I'm so excited to share this work with more families, and, more people who maybe aren't parents yet, but are maybe in the same boat as me, where they want to figure things out beforehand because they're also having those, same fears popping up. But I'm going to pass the torch to Betty now because she also has a really beautiful story of how she got here that is completely different than mine, which is part of the reason that we work so well together, because we kind of give the full spectrum of parent coaching and this work and the different applications it can have. So
yeah,
go ahead, Betty.
I am the parent that it will be discussed in 20 years in therapy. I am the parent that will be discussed in 20, maybe not in 20, maybe I am being discussed right now in therapy. And that gave me a lot of shame a few years ago. 2, 3 years ago, I think that was my deepest shame. And I want to start, and I love that we heard your story first because you come from that, I want to be proactive. When I was a very young mom, I was a mom at 23. I did not give myself the opportunity to be proactive about it. It was kind of like, you got a kid here. What are you going to do with it? And when that happens, we do go into our, what I like to call my factory settings. We come with those. That's the parenting your parents gave you. And that's the parenting that I was doing with my daughter. And I have to say that I love my parents very much. I love my mother very deeply, and I wouldn't be the woman that I am today if it wasn't for her. But I can also see now how she poured her struggles into me without knowing the consequences that it will have, years later. And I can talk about it now because we've talked about it, and she knows and she sees how those struggles did pour. And not only her struggle, her mother's struggles too. If we go, if we want to go
Mm.
way back. So what happened is that when they're little, to me it was easier to parent from that factory setting and authoritative, right, parenting style. It was easier because when they're little, they, they don't fight you that much. They go with it, right? When they're little, they let you go with it. And even when you're being very unfair and very unkind to them without you wanting to, they take it. They're little, but unfortunately they become our little punching bags, right? Because they take it, they will say yes, they won't fight us too much. But then they turn into teens. And that's where I was presented, right? I Now we're teens. Now I have a voice. Now I can talk back. Now I know that what you're doing is not the right thing. And now I'm able to tell you that, hey, you're being unfair to me. That doesn't make sense to me. Right. And that's when we, as parents, that's where we are, oh, they're rebellious because they're talking back, because they're telling me, oh, that I did this and I did that, but I keep food on the table, and they have clothes, and I send them to school. I'm unresponsible, and they're complaining that I couldn't spend time with them last weekend. And we get into a point, the power struggle becomes, at least for me, it was very emotional, because I think it was a power struggle of, I was so ashamed that what she was saying was true.
Mm.
Wasn't saying anything that was a lie. I had done all of those things, but and I was ashamed of that. But I was standing in my rightfulness of, I am the parent and I am keeping you alive. So I kind of like, I have a right to be like that, even though I'm ashamed of it, because that's not the parent that I wanted to be. So in my case, my daughter, things became started escalating and escalating, and it became to a point when I was very depressed. I was so sad, deeply sad. I remember going to bed crying just because of an altercation, something that had happened earlier in the day with my daughter. Because at the moment when you're like right in front of them, you don't want to show fear, right? You don't want to show fear. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little teary, but you don't want to show fear. You want to show that you are the one that is in control. And that takes so much from you. But when you actually take a time, when the hours pass and you're on your own, that's when you realize what you did. That's when you realize what you said. And that is the shame that you carry with you, right? As a parent. That's the shame that I was carrying. But in my case, I was so fixated on my daughter's actions, right? I need to stop her from talking back. I need to stop her from being rebellious. I need to stop her from, trying to get her way, right? Or she's manipulating me into getting her way, and she's depressed and she's not letting me help her. And it was her problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to get help for her because she's obviously the one that needs the help, right? And when I did, I was set on, she needs to be medicated. I had used antidepressants when I was a teenager, and looking back, I felt like they did help me. So in my head, that she's depressed, she must. This is what I need to do. This is what my mother did for me. This
Mm-hmm.
must be what she needs. This is what's gonna help. So I took her. It was actually online with a practitioner, and the practitioner asked me at some point, the prescriber, can we have a moment on, can I talk to her on her own? And I was okay. And I walked away. I don't know what happened during that conversation, but when I came back, that prescriber was set on, I am not going to prescribe her anything. And mom, I can see how deeply affected you are by all of this. I was ball out crying, right? Explaining to her what was going on. And I think that you should get help for yourself. I think that not only her, but you need to get into therapy and do things like that. And that was the first aha moment. I think for me, like you, pieces kind of starting to stack together. That was the first. And I started doing therapy. And I started reading the parenting books, right? And I started doing self-compassion work. And the thing is that the therapist that I had in Florida, I moved from states. He could no longer be my therapist here in Georgia, but I tried other therapists and we were not clicking. This was my guy. Me and him, we go, right? So he told me, well, I can be your coach. And I was like, coach, what is that? Right? What is the difference between a coach and a therapist? And he said, let's get into that conversation. Jump in, let's do a call, and I'll explain to you the difference. And that's how I was introduced to coaching. Because I know when you saw it, you randomly typed something in Google and something popped up. My first approach with coaching was him telling me, hey, I can coach you. It's not therapy, it's different. Oh, okay. I started doing that. But even then, oh my God, even then, I could do it with my son. I was getting better. The parenting books were making sense. I can do this. He was little, he was 3, 4 years old. So, of course, I could do, practice with him and things were working. But with my daughter, as soon as she said something, it was like a switch, like that factory setting. You know how all of the devices have that little push that you do, like a reset. Oof, it was like that, like shoo. I became someone else. And I couldn't find it in myself, and I knew what I had to do. That was the most frustrating part for me, is that I knew exactly what I needed to do. And then one day, my daughter, like playing, she said to me, why don't you have the patience that you have for other people with me? Because I noticed that and she said, her brother, when he says something, you have so much patience for him. And she even mentioned my husband, you even have so much patience for him too. But when it comes to me, you don't have that patience for me. You're always snapping, you're always angry at me. She even said, I've become your punching bag. She said that. And it was words. I
Mm.
wasn't hitting her. I thought because it wasn't physical, right? The damage was not there. It was words. And it was like, that was the moment when I said, so I have the knowledge. I read the books. Like I've read the books. I seen all the TikToks. I seen all the Instagram reels, right? I know it. But when it comes to the practice, why can't I do it? Why can I show up? And then I can tell you, like you, the exact moment that I saw the Jai Institute. The moment that I remember is being in that first introduction call, when they're explaining to you how does it work, right? Kind of like the curiosity call, but it's a group call. I remember that. I remember that moment. And I remember that after what they said, and it was a big investment for me at the time, and I was about to get married, like to do a wedding, so I wasn't supposed to be spending this money either. But I felt what you felt, like this is it. And I didn't even see it at the moment as something for me to help other parents. That wasn't even on the table for me just yet. I was just thinking about the process of doing it for her as we started, right? And when I started making the changes, and then I noticed that things were improving. That with a teenager, like to me, at, I didn't want to think that way, but if I'm being honest with myself, I thought it was a lost case. I'm like, this is it. Like you said, this is it. This is the job for a therapist in 20 years at this point. And when she comes for me, I guess, I'll take responsibility then.
Mm.
I'm fully knowing, right, that I'll take responsibility then, because I know, I know my wrongs. But I didn't know it was actually possible to make a change, to repair. I had no idea that you could repair. And I've actually now know that not only is it possible to repair, that's exactly what our kids are craving. That's exactly what they want. They are all of their whole being, their whole nervous system, all of them. That's what they're craving, repair. So for me, when I started doing that, and then my husband and me, we're very different. I thought like I'm liberal, authoritarian, or I can never say the word right, but like I will give a lot of space. I'm not very hovering. But yes, if you are trying to match up with me, I'm the mom, right? That type of
Mm-hmm.
parenting, which to me now I know that's under parenting. And I wasn't really I was really confusing them because my mom doesn't get angry. She will let me do whatever I want, and then there's a point where she's gonna explode. I never know when. So it was
Mm-hmm.
always a game of when is mom going to explode, right? I
Yeah.
can do whatever I want. So I was very it was very confusing to them as of when do I need to follow the rules, when I don't, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So as I started showing up differently, right? I'm doing the program, I'm working on it. I remember in the beginning, my daughter will tell me, why do you speak like that? Why do you sound like that? Why do you sound so condescending? And I remember being in a call with you, right, Ellie, and telling you she
Mm-hmm.
said that I was being condescending. But I'm saying what I have to say. Like
Mm-hmm.
I had my little script. I'm doing the script. And I didn't realize that I had to make it myself. And there's something that you can never fake with your kids, and
Mm-hmm.
that's safety. Safety,
Yeah.
you can't fake that. So if I'm saying I can be saying the script, but if I'm angry inside, if there's no safety inside of me, they're hearing the anger, they're not hearing the words. I sound very
Mm.
fake. Right, if I'm not acting the way I say I am, they're only seeing what I'm doing, they're not listening to what I'm saying. I didn't know that at the time that I still, because I was starting, but that was a good starting point. I was starting with the script, and then I understood that I needed to make it my own, and that I needed to look inwards into what is preventing me from delivering this script in an authentic way. And that's when the work starts, and you go deeper, and I'm still deep into the work. And the reason why I'm still doing this is because for the first time in my life I found something that I'm really passionate about. It's I have ADHD. I am very open about that, and in my life I've had many I will call them now distractions, but many hobbies, right? And I'm kind of like a jack of all trades. I know a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of everything, and I think I'm well known in my circle for knowing a little bit of everything. Because if you tell me a topic, I will go and research it, or I have a new hobby this week and I'm gonna do it. But everything will be like coming and going. I wasn't really finding myself into, okay, this is what I see myself doing until I'm gray and old. Not really.
Mm-hmm.
But things that I've always been a jack of all trade, I love to research. I am the person who walks into a room, and I'm always gonna find the most awkward person in the room, because that's usually me too, and that's like my little body. And I want people to feel heard, to feel seen, to feel understood. And this is me since I was a kid. I'm always the one that usually people come in, and tell me their stories, and I love hearing people's stories. And I'm the one that has made so many mistakes. I am so deeply human, and that used to make me feel so ashamed of myself, that I was so deeply human. And now I understand that that is what makes me so good at this. That I am so deeply imperfectly human. That when you come to me and then you tell me, this is what is happening, this is how I'm presenting in my parenting, I'm trust when I say I'm not seeing you with eyes of how dare you. It's like probably I've been there, I probably have done that too. And if there, the way I see it, if there's hope for me and my family and the relationship that I had with my daughter, there's hope for everybody. Like, to me, I'm like, I'm my own case study. If I did it at home, trust me, you can. It's like when dads, like, is it possible to share? If I was able to kind of like gaslight my husband into believing in this word, trust me, the change is there. If you don't believe it, come to my home because you'll
Mm-hmm.
see it here. And when we talk about transformational parenting, and I've always had that little eek with the title, and we talk about this a lot, parenting coach, because I feel like it sounds like I'm coming for you and I'm coming to tell you how to raise your kids, and that is so not it, not at all. And I don't feel like it encompasses, right, everything. And I've been on my search of how do I encompass what I really do in a few words. And I like to, I'm presenting myself as an intentional parenting coach. And I feel that the word intentional is very important in the work that I'm doing, because that's the heart of what I teach, or what we teach. It's when you get so real with yourself and you meet yourself in such a deep way, yourself, that you're able to get so clear in your values. Yours, not your parents, not your friends, not society, your values. You're so clear in your vision. What do I want my relationship with my kids to look like? You get clear in your needs. Then you stop telling your kids, why are you asking me for more, right? Because who's taking care of mom? You are taking care of yourself, right? And you get so clear in all of those things that then you become intentional about the way you parent. Every rule that you make at home comes from a value. There's
Mm-hmm.
intention in it. Every decision that you make, right, and any message that you tell your kids, everything aligns with the person that you say you are and the vision that you have for yourself and your family. And from that comes your intention. And then when we're parenting with intention, we're not parenting from struggle, we're not parenting from fear, we are not parenting, right, from our past experiences. We are parenting with intention. That when my kid gets out to the world, I've given them the tools, the love, the support, the safety that they
Mm-hmm.
need to go out there and be their best self, whatever that is, right? And that's why for me this work is so important, because I think it cements, right? It this is coming from my value, my personal value of making an impact in the world and being intentional about what I leave behind in this world. That's something that I value very deeply. And the way I'm doing that is by getting out there, getting the message. That's my mission, right? My mission is to get that message out there that repair is possible. That no matter the parent that you were, you can choose, like you said, Ellie, you can choose the parent that you want to be. And that we do not need to be perfect parents. We do not need all the books. We do not need all of the other people's opinions and expectations and all of that. We don't need none of that. We need to meet with ourselves to get clear of the vision that we want, and to decide to every day wake up with the intention of being the person that we say that we are to be aligned.
Yeah.
and that's why I'm doing this. So I like the fact that we are coming, like we mentioned in the beginning, we're coming from different angles, right? And you're coming from the preamp, or the little ones. This is, you haven't been a parent yet, you're not a mother yet, but you want to, that's your vision for your life,
Mm-hmm.
and you are taking the steps to get that vision into the real life. And that's so, that's amazing. Not every parent has the option to kind of
Mm-hmm.
like prepare themselves, and that's beautiful, especially when they're little. And I know a lot of parents, when they're little, they're like, yes, because they see the struggle. Okay, I want to be a better parent. But then when they get older, we kind of leave them like, it's their problem, it's their issue, and there's nothing I can do about it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here to tell you that there is something that you can do about it.
Yeah.
That you're still on time. There's still time.
Yeah, there's always more time. And I love that you can share this story and put a new perspective on those teenage years, because I think in our society, it's very normal to just assume that, like, yeah, teenagers rebel and they're not going to listen to you. And that's just how it is. And you kind of just have to grin and bear it and do your best to keep them from making like the riskiest of decisions, right?
Hmm.
And I think the picture is painted that like the teenage years, you're just like holding on for dear life.
Yeah. Yeah.
um and it doesn't have to be like that, and I feel so much better knowing that one day I'll be able to use these tools, and I'll probably be calling Betty for her expertise on the teenage years when I get there, because I know it doesn't have to be that way.
Hmm. That you get to choose, and I love that for you, because you are giving yourself the space to choose.
Hmm.
I did not give myself the space to choose beforehand, but like you mentioned before, I am giving myself the space now,
Yeah.
and to be still very human. I am just more vocal and less ashamed and more honest about my humanity,
Hmm.
because now, instead of like exploding because I'm tired and they got me up to like not here, over there, right? And I'm so overwhelmed and I have so much to do. And why don't they know that I have so much to do? Now I say, hey guys, I have a lot today. My level is like here. Your space is like, use it wisely. Let's make it all a
Hmm.
good day, right? I'm more open about it, and I feel like that opens up more space for me, but also for them, because now I get to model to them. You can also be this parent. You can choose. You can talk, right? You don't have to
Hmm.
stay stuck. And going back to something that you mentioned about the generations, I think that that's something that I love so much, knowing that we do get to impact the next generation to come in ways that we don't even know yet. And
Yeah,
that's exciting.
it is really exciting. It brings a lot of possibilities for the future.
Yes. Yes.
So we shared our stories, and you guys have a little more insight now on where we've both come from and where our own expertise lies. Um, and we hope that if you are someone who is also wanting to make the most of your parenting journey, who is wanting to be able to make those changes, but you're not quite sure how yet, you feel like you're ready to reach out to one of us. Betty, who is the parent that should reach out to you?
Yes. I will say this is the parent. If you feel that it might be too late for you, call me. If you are a mom that feels that you are just messing up, you're all over the place, you don't know, there's no choice for you but to be all over the place in your life, get on with me. I've been there. I think the parent that should call me is the parent that is in the middle of the trenches. If your water is up to here, please contact me. I'm here for you. That's the parent that I want to reach, because what I want to give you and is to know that there is hope for a different life. There is hope. There's hope for you to wake up in the morning with joy, calm, and intention in your parenting. What about you, Ellie?
Yeah, for me, I love to work with those families who are in the preschool years. So if you were in that area, that 2 to 5-ish zone, and maybe you're starting to see some of those patterns or hear yourself and, oops, that was my dad's voice that just came out, or that's the way my mom would react, and you're starting to notice those things, and it's not necessarily a good thing. Some of the things we bring from our parents are really great, but if you're noticing the ones that you don't want to repeat, the ones that you're like, ooh, I didn't like how that sounded, I didn't like how that felt, um, the time is now. You get to change right now, and you still have so much time. So much time. So you get to rebuild those patterns right now while your children are still really young and their brains are adapting, their brains are learning and soaking up everything. Um, so contact me when you
Yeah.
start to hear your parents' voices coming out. And also, if you're like me, where you're planning for the family, or maybe you're expecting and you start to have those fears come up of, I don't want to parent the same way my parents did. I want to do it differently, but I'm really confused about what I'm seeing on social media or what I'm reading in these books. And I don't know if I have the power or the strength to show up this way. Call me, because you do. And you have all of the answers inside of you already. And I will just help you pull it out of you.
Yes, definitely. I think you bring a lot of hope to all of those families and all of those people that maybe that is what's stopping them
Mm-hmm.
from actually starting a family. The fact that they don't know if they will be able to do it differently, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe their story is so deeply painful or powerful that they think that might be the block that's stopping them from starting a family. And that's definitely something that you can this program, what we do, we can definitely help with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I love because when you become a parent when they're little, your personality changes. You meet a new version of yourself. And with our coaching, you get to meet that version of yourself. So it's
Yeah.
also a great way, especially when they're little. When I hear you, it's like, yes, they're in the when they're little, it's a mix of the kids are doing their thing and they will drive you crazy, and also is you trying to find yourself
Mm-hmm.
and trying to parent. So it is beautiful that they will get to meet themselves as well with the process.
Yeah. Yeah. You get to really discover who you are as a parent and what that most, again, like authentic, intentional, aligned version of you as a parent is.
I love this. So I'm so glad that we got the time to do this. There's nobody that makes me cry on camera like Ellie does. We have quite a few. So that was for your viewing pleasure of me. But this is definitely deeply emotional work. Some tears might be pain that that was locking in and wanted to go out. But I know that a lot of those tears are more of happiness and disbelief still to this
Mm-hmm.
moment that that was my life and that's not my life anymore. And
Yeah.
it's more of that, right? It's that shock of disbelief of, oh my god, that was my starting point, but that's
Yeah.
where I am now. So thank you
Yeah.
for joining us. How do they contact you, Ellie?
You can go to my website. You can make a curiosity call anytime. It's free. Hop on and we'll just get to know each other, talk about how parent coaching works, see if we feel like a good fit. My website is elliechasecoaching.com. Hop there anytime. You can find all the information. You can schedule. And how can they contact you, Betty?
Yes, you can contact me. My website is yourparentingstory.com. You can find me in social media is your underscore parenting underscore story. And right now I'm actually on day 23 of of 100 days of living online. So you can hop in my social media and follow my journey into a more aligned life as well.
Definitely check that out. It's worth the watch.
Have a good one, guys, and thank you, Ellie, for jumping on this call. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.